In this course, we will learn how Datapower configuration is done in Windows using Docker. What we are learning here: installing and configuring Docker, configure Datapower in Docker, running the Datapower in Windows. Docker Introduction. It is an open platform for developing and running applications. It separates your applications from your infrastructure so you can deliver software quickly. It runs directly within the host machine's kernel. This means you can run more containers on a given hardware than the virtual machines, namely VMware. Docker architecture. It follows client-server architecture. As you can see, there is a Docker host, client, and a Docker registry. Docker host can be Windows or can be Linux. Docker daemon to manages the containers, images, network, and volumes. The required images are pulled from the Docker registry. Client might be Docker API or Docker CLI. You can see some regularly used commands here. Docker images. It lists the images present in the Docker host. Docker build. You can build your own image using Docker file. Docker pull. You can import the Docker images from Docker Hub or from private registry. Docker push. You can export the image to the Docker registry. Docker run. It will create the container and start the container. What is Docker client? The Docker client is the mostly used tool to interact with Docker. When you use commands like docker run, the client sends this command to the Docker daemon running in our host machine. The Docker command uses the Docker client libraries to interact with the Docker daemon. It communicates to Docker daemon using the Docker Engine REST API. Docker registries. The Docker registry stores Docker images. The Docker registry can be private or public. Some companies maintain their own registry to store images. Docker Hub is a private registry that anybody can use. By default, Docker is configured to look for images on Docker Hub. When you use the Docker pull or Docker run commands, the required images are pulled from the configured registry. When you use Docker push command, your image is pushed to your configured registry. What are Docker images? You can see in this picture some of the Docker images are listed, namely MongoDB, Ubuntu, MySQL, Node.js, Jenkins, Bitbucket, RabbitMQ, Apache Tomcat, and Java Development Kit. Docker image is a template with instructions for creating a Docker container. You can create your own images or use the other images that are published in a registry. To build your own image, you need to create a Docker file with the instructions to create an image and how to run it. When you change the Docker file and rebuild the image, only the changed layers are rebuilt. Docker container. It's a software package. It hosts code and its dependencies so that the applications can run smoothly in any of the computing environment. When the Docker images are run on the Docker engine, it creates and run Docker container. The container is a runnable instance of an image. Docker manages the containers. Docker allocates read and write file system to the container. You can create, start, stop, or delete a container using Docker API or Docker CLI commands. Now we will see some information about Datapower. It provides the security, integration, and optimized access to a mobile and web applications. It's a hardware appliance and its firmware uses Linux-based operating system. It resides in the DMZ layer. It can act as enterprise service bus to perform routing, transformation, and also security gateway to protect web services. For the development purpose, we can simulate the same in Windows system using Docker. The following command runs Datapower container docker run -it. This is to enable interactive mode. -p, you can give any port number here, and -- name, give the name to the Docker container. Then Datapower image, that is ibm.com/datapower, that we downloaded from data Docker hub. What happens when you run this command? If you haven't downloaded the Datapower image, Docker pulls it from the configured registry. Then Docker creates a new container and it allocates a read-write file system to the container. How to enable the interactive mode? Interactive mode enables, when you enabled it, it allows you to access the Datapower CLI from the Docker console. To enter interactive mode, you must meet the following conditions. You must start the container in interactive mode by using the docker -i as an interactive mode and -t tty flags. With this parameter, you have to start the docker run command. If you combine this both -it, you can give in a one as a one parameter. You must start the docker process, derouter process with the Datapower _interactive environment variable, that you make it as true. Now we will see the implementation.